All right, let's start. New England Patriots, you're not going to do this to this team. Last night, they traded Matthew Judon. He goes to the Atlanta Falcons for a third-round pick. They had been embroiled. He was a favorite of Belichick. Belichick had re-signed him to extensions. Granted, it was a lower-price contract. He wanted an upgrade. They talked and talked and talked. They couldn't come to an agreement. He was out of camp. And at the end of the day, I think that Jared Mayo, the new head coach, said, this is too much of a distraction. Sent him to Atlanta. Atlanta welcomes him. They gave up a third-round pick for a 32-year-old linebacker who can still play. Then this morning, Atlanta says, you come to camp, you get on the field, and you play. We are not talking about contracts until you're on the field playing for us.
Okay.
So now suddenly there's another barrier. So it's up to Juden. Does he want to play? Does he want to retire? Go to Atlanta and see if Arthur Blank will take care of you. So that's interesting. San Francisco. Love me not. This thing's been going on for like a month. Brandon Ayuk. So we got the whole storyline now. Frisco and Pittsburgh have reached agreement on a deal. Ayuk would go to Pittsburgh for a $28 million contract per year, which that's double what he's making now at 14.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be getting a really good young player. San Francisco has yet to decide whether they want to take only draft picks. Pittsburgh won't give them what they want in terms of defensive players, only draft picks. So this thing is stalled. Yesterday, San Francisco reached out to Ayuk's agent for the umpteenth time. Let's reopen talks. I think they want to keep the guy because there's so much upside. He's so young and he's so gifted. If they could trade Deebo Samuel, they'd trade Deebo Samuel, but nobody wants that contract and nobody wants the injury history that Deebo is kind of compiled. So Frisco's got a deal to send him to Pittsburgh, but they have yet decided whether they want to make the deal or they're going to try to re-sign him. New York Jets, the other big holdout. Hassan Riddick, linebacker. They got him from the Eagles. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Now he's making $14.5 million a season. That's a good contract.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, the deal. He wants an extension. Pretty good player, pass rusher par excellence. The Jets are just tired of it all. They want him in camp. They traded for him so they could get him on the team to help that rebuilt defense. He's not shown up. He has to be traded. Jets' response from their general manager, your name's on that contract, your signature's on that contract, you owe us 1 year. Play. Now he's getting fined. He's lost $1.8 million in fines with his holdout because he's not even in the building. He didn't go through OTAs or anything. They said they're not trading him. You owe us a year. Come fulfill your contract. He wants the extension. So that's where we are. Minnesota. This is bad. J.J. McCarthy came off the bench, and we talked about it on the Monday bonus podcast. Threw for 188 in his first game.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty impressive. Good command. He got knocked around. Showed up Sunday with pain and stiffness in the knee. Sent him for an MRI, torn meniscus. They go in to do the surgery. They find total torn meniscus, not just a chip. Gone for the year. Not a good story for Minnesota because the way he had come looked as if he was going to get the chance to play. Rams, they don't need more injuries. Now they got another injury. You know, they already got 7 guys out with injuries in camp in 3 weeks. Matthew Stafford goes down yesterday, hamstring. He's not going to play this weekend against the Chargers, might not play the third game. They got to handle him with kid gloves. Poor Sean McVay. He's got so many issues with so many injuries. And at this late date, he's lost 3 starting offensive linemen. He's lost 2 of his top 3 cornerbacks. Now his quarterback is dinged. So they're going to handle Matthew Stafford with kid gloves. And the last one is the British Columbia Lions of the Canadian Football League, one of the best teams in the CFL. They just came across the border, and they just got an NFL quarterback who got cut. We had talked about this about a week ago. I know this kid. His name is Nathan Rourke. He went to where I went, Ohio U. He went to the BC Lions as an undrafted free agent, went up there and set the all-time rookie records, throwing the football all over the place. Opted out of his contract from BC, came here, been with 4 clubs, went to Jacksonville, but Trevor Lawrence was there. They finally cut him. Went to New England. He was in that mix of all these names on their roster. Didn't get much of a chance to do anything. Cut him. Went to the Giants. They just cut him. Went to Atlanta. Lasted a week there. Asked to be released. He's just signed to go back to the BC Lions. He's going to play this weekend. And he signed a 3-year deal at pretty high money for the Canadian League. So he's gone home. He's a Canadian by birth. He's gone home to play for the BC Lions. Pretty good kid. So I'll keep track of him because that's the example I try to use. I talk to agents, who represent these quarterbacks that are on the periphery, who keep getting cut, or you're on development and will never get a chance to play. Why don't you take him to Canada? Let him be a star. Be a star in Canada. They may grow up to love the place. There's a veteran in Winnipeg, Zach Collaros, who's won Grey Cup rings. He tried to come from the NFL out of the University of Cincinnati, didn't make it. He went up to the CFL, and he's been a star in a couple different places. So there's a living to be made. There's a name to be shown, and there's stardom north of the border. So Nathan Rourke has gone back to the BC Lions, and I bring that up because we talked about him. One of the people on Fans Forum asked me about him just a couple weeks ago. So, John, you got quarterbacks, you got unhappy football players, you're a general manager. Solve the damn problem.
Solve the problem. Well, first of all, Nathan Rourke, it's nice to see him, go back to the CFL. I kind of think it's an ego thing, with a lot of these players because they want to be an NFL quarterback. But at least he has the experience in Canada, so it makes sense. Just commenting on other teams, tough break for JJ McCarthy.
Oh.
I mean, he just looked so good, and he was, exceeding expectations. And I didn't even think he was going to be a first-round draft pick based on what he did at Michigan. And boy, he's looked good. And then this happens. The Hacksaw Hamilton thing, dude's getting bad advice. I mean, if you're getting $50,000 a day fines, it's what is it, 1.2, 1.8 million? That's bad advice. He's got to come into camp.
The only name I can mention, I know you got a good Rolodex.
Yeah.
Just call Hassan Riddick and just give him Antonio Brown's phone number. Give him the running back who had been with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was headed for stardom and set out an entire year. Give him his number too.
Was that Mendenhall? I don't remember.
No, I can't recall the name, but those are the two marquee guys who are doing really well in their careers and said, I'm not playing. Sat out a year, never the same again.
Oh, yeah. And they're never the same, and these guys have a bird in the hand, right? So I totally understand why they want to, try to take advantage of the opportunity, get a little leverage and try to negotiate something. But at some point, you got to realize that there's money on the table and take it. The last comment about the about the New England Patriots, I'm thinking more of it from the Atlanta Falcons perspective. Atlanta's made some big improvements. I mean, we got the two quarterbacks there. It seems like they're getting close to being in a position to win.
They need defense. They need Judon. But for them to stand up, I don't know, is that throwing a barrier right in front of the front door of the building? Unless you come in and play, we're not going to talk about an extension. You can't sit home and hold out. You owe us this contract. So
yeah, they're right.
Interesting to see. Okay, we get to halftime.